Hey guys, welcome to another video. This is going to be something different. I am going to start doing a new series on videos where I edit your images that you can send me through my website. I'll leave a link and you can see how I would edit your images as if they were my own, because I'm always getting asked how I edit my images and how I get the look that I go for. And this is going to be my way of showing you and giving you an insight into how I do these things. So I have had a link up on my website for a few weeks now, and I have had a couple of people send in some images. I prefer to have raw images for the obvious reasons that they're easier to edit. There's more things you can do with a raw image. I have been sent a few JPEG images, which is fine. I'm going to have a go at them anyway. So I've got two sets of images at the moment that I'm going to have a look at today. So before I get into that, let me just say, if you do want to send me some of your own images, please go to my website, the link you'll see just up there, and please bear in mind the rules. Please only limit it to 3 images and send raw files if you can. Okay, so let's have a look at these images. So here we are in Lightroom with 2 images I was sent by someone. Unfortunately, I haven't actually got the name of this person because when they uploaded the images they didn't leave their name in the comments box, so I don't actually know who these are from. And these other images, these 3 images were submitted by Sue Woodbridge, who has been on a few of my photo walks and I think a workshop or 2 maybe. So she sent these in to me and I'm going to look at these in a second. So let's go back to the first 2. These are JPEG images. Like I said before, I do prefer to have raw images. They're easier to work with, and you can do a whole lot more with raw images if you want to check a video out that explains the differences between the two and why it's probably better to shoot in raw. I'll leave a link just up the top for you now. But let's have a look at these in turn. So we're going to the develop module. It's a very nice image. I love this this look. I don't know where this is. Potentially Southampton, I would say. And then we have another look here. This is really good. We can do a lot with the clouds here, and we'll have a look at the crop as well. So this one has already been cropped. I don't know if this has been worked on before, but I like the crop. I'm probably going to leave it as it is. I'm going to bring down the yellows in the image. I don't like a lot of yellow in my images, especially at night time. If I'm shooting nighttime shoots, I will bump the blues or lower the temperature of my white balance. Most of the time I did it in camera, but with digital nowadays and with what you can do in post, it doesn't matter too much. You can leave it in auto. So I'm going to bump the contrast as well. I'm trying to get a little bit more definition in the clouds maybe. And let's just bring down the shadows, not too much. If there's a nighttime shot, I don't want to bring the shadows up too much, but I'm going to bring down the highlights and just boost the overall exposure like that. Now this was shot on a 10mm at ISO 400 f8. So I'm surprised you're getting the starburst at f8, but it's very good. I do like it. Yeah, it's very, very good. And there is a slight bit of noise in the image, but you can expect that from a JPEG at ISO 400. And it is a 3.1 second exposure. It's done really, really well. It's really, really good. I do like it. So let's bump the clarity just a little weeny bit. Potentially going to bring down the whites and a little bit of vibrance up. See what that looks like. Yeah, I already like that. If I see the before and after so far, yeah, I do like that a little bit better. Definition in the clouds is coming out. We're going to do a bit more of that in a second. So let's come down and see if we can do anything with the split tone. Now I'm going to add a little bit more yellow in the light area, more blue, maybe magenta. Let's have a look. And give us a slight. I don't want it to go too much because obviously it's a nighttime image. The shadows are going to be more prevalent than. Well, actually, I do like that. Let's see what the green's doing. Potentially. This is all going to be a matter of personal choice. I'll leave that just there. Just bump that back down to the highlights slightly. See, I actually like that. I do like that. Before and after. The split tone. Yep. perfect. What I'm going to do is just saturate the yellows ever so slightly. I want to give this area somewhere for the eye to be drawn into, and the yellow down here is going to be doing that for us. Sharpening probably won't sharpen too much. I might add a little bit of noise reduction just to see what we can get rid of in the clouds there. Let's go in 1 to 1 and have a look. Actually, it's not too bad. It's very, very sharp. I might add a bit of sharpen actually, and just mask it out to about 50%, so that affects the areas that are dark, not only light areas. Yeah, like that. And then I'm going to remove chromatic aberration. Now I wonder if it's going to pick up. No, it won't pick up what camera was used, because it's a JPEG, so that information won't be in there, but that's fine. I'm not overly worried about that at all. Post crop vignette, I'm not going to do that. I'll do that in a second. So I'm going to start looking at the sky. That's going to add exposure, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to bring the exposure down and bump the contrast a little bit more. Just a touch. Yep, like that. Okay, and bring one in from the side, from the bottom as well, because we don't want to be seeing too much detail down there. It's going to draw the eye away from the main part of the image, which is going to be the container ship. So I'm now going to come to this again. I don't know why it sets so high in the exposure, but it does. Just going to bring the exposure up ever so slightly, warm up that part of the image, a bit more magenta, more contrast. I'm going to do a whole lot. If I show you what that's done, it's not a massive amount, but it's bringing the eye into the centre of the image for me. That works. And as a nighttime scene, I probably won't do a whole lot more. I may crop in. I don't like this, for me, this little bit on the edge there. I don't like too many things being at the edge of my image. So bring that in to about there, potentially. Maybe cut off a bit more of the bottom and have the horizon on this rule of thirds along there. It looks like it potentially might just be slightly off center to me. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better for me. And that is probably where I'll leave that image. I do like it. As a nighttime scene, there's a lot going on, but the focus is on the ship, and you definitely get a sense of being there. I think it's really, really nice. I do like that. Okay, so for me, if I show you the before and after, we've got that as the before. And sorry, I do have my clipping mask on. Let me just turn them off for a second. If that will turn off. Actually, it's not turning off. So if I show you the before and after, there we go. For me, it gives a bit more colour. That's not a bad image as it is, but a bit too yellow for me. And if you do a little bit of work, you can bring out all the colours down here, and I think it does a little bit better for the lights in the background. So that, I like that. Very, very good. Let's move on to the next one. This shot. Okay, for me, these shots are nice. I love the clouds in this shot. Really, really good. I'm not the biggest fan of empty fields, particularly if they're flat. If they're wavy, you can get some kind of interest going and some kind of leading line potentially. But shooting across a field this way doesn't do a whole lot for me. Shooting across the field maybe from our left to right or right to left as we're looking at it. Potentially the way it's been harvested would give you a leading line through the picture. But it is a very nice picture. I like the sky, so we're going to play around with that. I'm actually going to crop it first. Let's give this a nice crop to about there. Again, I want the horizon on the rule of thirds, the lower rule of thirds there. And I'm going to go for something just like that. And now I'm going to bring up my shadows, not too much, bring down my highlights. And already you're seeing very good definition in the sky. And up the whites maybe. And bring the blacks down. A bit more contrast. Like it. And exposure is set pretty well, so I'm going to leave it there for a minute. Clarity, I'm just going to plus the clarity ever so slightly and bump that vibrance. I'm not going to do any split toning for this image because I like the balance of the greens and the blues in this image. If I start messing around with the yellows or the blues, it's going to add too much to it and it's not going to look too good. Sharpening is fairly sharp anyway, and there is absolutely no noise in the image. It was shot at ISO 100, and at f5 you're going to have a lot of pin sharp trees. Yeah, they're really sharp. I do like that. Very well taken, especially for f5. And let's add a little bit of sharpness, and we'll mask that sharpness. I always tend to go for about 50% masking. That's going to take off any edges around the clouds that we don't particularly want to sharpen. And remove chromatic aberration anyway. And for me, there's not a lot we'll do with that. We potentially look at the profiles. Actually, we can't look at the profiles because this is a JPEG. Forgot. So yeah, so if we were looking at a RAW file, we would potentially be able to change the profiles. We could look at maybe the landscape profile, but unfortunately it's shot in JPEG, so we're not going to be able to do that. Again, a JPEG image doesn't have as much information in it as a RAW file. I have got a video on that. You'd have to look in my Photography 101 section on YouTube and take a look at my video specifically on the differences between JPEG and RAW. So let's come back up the top. I'm going to do a little bit with the clouds up here. I'm just going to bring the exposure slightly down, bump the blues, bump the magentas. It's gone a bit too far potentially. Add a bit more contrast. And we'll do another one from the bottom, which will be slightly different. Just going to come down and just bump the blues in the overall saturation. See, that'll do something with the sky. Add a bit more blue into the sky where potentially it wasn't there before. And yeah, so slightly. Look at the before and after already. You see a massive difference there in the sky. And that's what I'm going for in this image. The sky is for me the interest in this image. You could potentially be looking at the farm down there, but in the image it's a bit too far away. You'd have to do a mega crop to get in and make that any kind of a feature for this image. And I'm not going to do a whole more than that to this image, to be fair. If it was a RAW file, there'd be much more I could potentially do. But for me, the sky and the clouds are what make this image. And the before and after, it's just a little bit more vibrant. So there you go. So let's look at the next 3 images. I love this image. I've shot this composition a few times. I love going over to Gosport and getting the sunrise behind either the Spinnaker Tower or what they call the Lipstick Building. If you're not from the area, that is actually called the Lipstick Building, funnily enough, named by the locals, not by the people who've made it, obviously. So for this image, I'm going to do a few bits and pieces. First of all, we can note that this is actually a RAW file, so we can potentially take this image a lot further than we can with the other one. Again, the sun isn't quite up, so for me it is a dark image. You see we are pretty much silhouetted from there. I'm going to crop these out in a second, but I'm going to just do a few bits and pieces first. I'm going to bump the exposure and the contrast. I'm going to bring up the shadows. You see, because this is a RAW file, when we bring up the shadows, actually you can retain a lot of the detail in the dark areas. So we can now see where they were actually, in fact, if I show you before, pretty much blackened out. They're actually silhouetted. Once we bring down, or bring up, should I say, the shadow areas, don't go too far. If you go too far, it could potentially look a bit too much fake. But from there you can start to see detail come back in the buildings. That looks good. And we're going to bring down the highlights. And already you can see the sunrise colours in the sky coming through in the image. If I show you the before from there and there already, I think that looks pretty damn good. We're going to bring up the whites and bring down the black so it's slightly, and add a bit of clarity. Again, I'm just going to bring exposure up ever so slightly to about there, and the vibrance we are going to bring up too. Okay, for me, I'm going to bring the blue, saturate the blues and the magentas in the image. And if I look at the before and after, yeah, I'm loving the colour there. I'm going to come back to the top and actually now I'm going to do my crop. I'm going to crop out the rocks at the bottom. Again, I'm putting my horizon on the rule of thirds, give or take. And that for me is a lovely, lovely landscape crop. Split toning, potentially I'm going to add a little bit of orange, tiny bit of orange to the highlights and the low lights or the shadows. I'm going to add a little bit of potentially green to counteract the other colours I have in the image. This again, this is a matter of personal choice. I'm looking for that sweet spot that's going to make the image just pop. Not too much like that. I think somewhere around here is going to be best for me. And again, before and after, yeah, I'll do like that. Do like that. It's awesome. We were shot at ISO 100, so there's no noise in the image, but I'm going to up the sharpness to about 80, 85, because I can do that with this image. Mask at about 50, so that the sharpening doesn't affect the areas like the sky. And that is looking pretty damn good. I do like that. We have got some chromatic aberration on the side here. Hopefully that does a good job there. Yep, you see that done that really well. If I show you again, turn that off, you see the green on the left hand side there and the magenta on the right hand side there. Chromatic aberration is the parts of the image where there's really dark areas that hit really light areas. You do get that funny colour, so hit that and that does a really good job. You see there, getting rid of that. Perfect. We can potentially enable the profile correction because this will pick up Sue's Canon and the lens that she was using, which was the 18 to 135. And if I show you before and after as I'm zoomed out, it should get rid of a little bit of vignette. Yeah, you see a little bit of vignette just go just there. And we can now look at a post crop vignette, which I'm going to add in back just there. Very slight, very slight. Now from here I'm going to look at the landscape. Too much. Potentially a neutral. See what it was before to the standard. Neutral, I think potentially portrait sometimes. No, again, too much. Neutral. We'll go with neutral. I like that. It's pretty good. And now I'm going to start looking at my local adjustments from up here. I'm going to bring in an exposure graduate filter from the bottom and another one from the top. I can potentially do quite a bit of the sky here. I'm going to add a bit more magenta into the sky. And a little bit of the yellow temperature, maybe just raise the temperature ever so slightly. The before and after for me, so far, looking good. Do like that, yep. Yep, love that, do love that. I'm actually going to go back to here and add a bit more blue and magenta into the bottom. I love magenta. If you know me and you've seen any of my videos before, you will know that I do add a lot of magenta into my landscapes. Why I do that I don't know, I just like the look. So that for me is pretty much done. It tells a story. It's a sunrise shot. slightly just before the sun has come up, so everything is going to be in shadow. We're not going to be able to get a whole lot of detail, but we did bring a lot of detail back. If I show you the before and after, you see how dark the buildings are, and you do get a bit of detail come back in our edit. So I really do like that. Beautiful. Move on to the next. This is a really nice shot. I love this. I love the way that the river leading out to sea is our leading line. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot in the distance that is of interest to me personally, but I do like the reflection from the sky. For me, that's what I'm going to be looking at in this image. Again, we shot ISO 100, and it's an 8-second exposure, so that's really well taken. I do like that. And this one, potentially I'm going to crop slightly differently. Potentially I'm going to actually bring down the top and have more of the bottom of the image here. And so let's get into our adjustments. So we're going to go for something like that. I don't know where this is, to be fair, but I can tell you it's either the sunrise or sunset shot, because you can see right in the distance there the sun going down or coming up, either way. We are at 11 millimeters, although you don't see much distortion. It's a very good lens. Tachina, 11 to 16 millimeter lens, really good. So let's bring up the shadows, down the highlights, add a few whites, bring down the back slightly. Clarity on the right again. You see what that's doing to the clouds in the reflection. And vibrance. Potentially I'm going to go down with the vibrance here, down with the saturation. Does that work for me? Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to bump the blues. Not that there's a lot of blue in the image, and bring up the purples and the magenta. Yep. Okay, I'm going to split tone this one. I'm going to go blue in the highlights, the blue that adds back in the shadows. Find a nice magenta for me, somewhere around there. If I show the before and after of just the split toning, you'll see why I like split toning. That's not split toning, this one is. So there, it's just giving it a little bit of a punch. We desaturated and then resaturated it with the split toning, so essentially our split toning isn't affecting the colours that we may have left in there, because we took quite a bit of the colour out. So we're essentially just giving it two colours. We'll do that and then remove chromatic aberration, our neighbour profile correction. And it's found the lens, the Tachina. And there's much more of what we can do here. Potentially add a little bit of a vignette back into the image. But we're going to come to our local adjustments now. Bring that up to there. We're going to add a bit of magenta into the sky. Yep, love that. And with this, we are going to add interest just there. A little bit of highlights, magenta, creep that up a little bit. You see that just creeping in there. Yeah. And maybe take another one, move that to there. There's one more just over there. And you know what? I'm going to put a little one, make that a bit smaller. Put that down there, like so. For me, that actually is a nice image. I'm not too sure if I would keep the crop on this side. Potentially I might move that out. Let's have a look, see what that looks like. So about there, maybe bring this up ever so slightly to there. And for me, the leading line from here isn't broken up by that. If I show you the before I did that. So the leading line for me is broken by this and its shadow in the water. But if we go back to where we were there, actually for me, everything that is broken is on one side, and we got the leading line up through and out through our image through the centre and off to the right. And I like that. I love that image. It's really, really nice. We could probably add a little bit of detail or light back into here, make it a feature, and give it a bit of yellow, warming up a little bit like that. It just draws the eye to it potentially. It could potentially look a bit fake from us looking at it now as I do this, but if you went away and came back to the image, you know, you could potentially be getting some kind of sunlight hitting it from yonder horizon over there. But it adds a little bit of interest in the image on the left hand side. We've got our leading line here and a bit of interest over the side here. So for me, that's a really nice image, and I'll leave that just there. On to the next one. So this is, for me, this image is slightly overexposed. For me, I like to expose for the lightest part of my image, which during the day is always going to be the sky. So the sky for me would be somewhere around probably there. But as it's a raw file, we can have a play around with that, so it's not too bad. Let's just bring up the shadows, bring down the highlights there, and we're going to add a bit of contrast. Bring up the white slightly, and push down the blacks. Again, let's see if we're clipping anything. We are. There, we're not clipping any of the light areas. That's good. Clarity, gonna add a bit of clarity. I like to have clarity when we've got buildings and architecture in a picture. I'm gonna crop this now. I think this is slightly off center. The horizon might not be quite straight there. That's probably a little bit better for me. And I like this crop, and I like the way everything is on the right hand side of the image. For me, that's a better crop. My sort of basic adjustments have been done. Maybe add a little bit of vibrance to give a bit more blue back into the sky, but there's not a huge amount of colour in the image anyway. Even the greens down here are a little bit dull. We can change that in a second. So I'm going to change the white balance slightly. I'm adding blue, and I'm going to add a bit more magenta potentially. We could potentially go the other way. No, I can't do it. So we're going to stick to around that with the blue temp and tint. We're just going to just a little bit more magenta. For me, that's pretty good. I'm going to bump my blues again because it's going to add more definition to the sky, and my purples and my magentas are going to get a bit of a boost. Split toning potentially, yeah. I do want to add a little bit more of the yellows back into the highlights. Not too much, because it is a sunny day. You'd expect it to look like a warm image, and in the shadows, I'm going to go for something, not a lot, but something around the greens potentially. Maybe the light blues, maybe something like that. Yeah, okay, like that. And then sharpening again with ISO 100, so that there is no noise in this image. It is a very, very sharp image. Already everything seems to be just about in focus, and we're at f11, so if we're focused in this, if we're focused on this area, then pretty much everything is in focus. So we're going to add a bit of sharpening to around 85 and mask that again. I don't want the clouds to be sharpened. Clouds are generally puffy, so we don't want them sharp, if that makes sense. No noise reduction needed. I'm going to remove chromatic aberration as I do in all my images, even if it doesn't need it generally. It doesn't hurt to add it. We can look around an area that's against the dark, and in fact there is yellowy green on this side of there and blue on this side of the spire there, and that will just get rid of that, and that's gone. You see that. So we'll enable profile correction, and we're going to put back in a little bit of vignette. We could potentially be looking at something like a landscape profile on this, and that will add those blues back into the sky, as you can see. I'll go for that with this one. I'm going to go for something a little bit not too faithful. Back to standard. I'm going to do my own stuff with the sky using the local adjustments up here. So we'll add that in just there. I'm going to add a bit of, do you know what, we're going to actually add a little bit of yellow tint, a bit more magenta and more contrast. Just going to bring out the blues a bit better. Maybe saturate a little bit as well. I'm going to do another one for the bottom of the image. We don't want too much contrast in this one, but what we do want is a bit more blue, a bit more magenta. Maybe no, let's go the other way, maybe the greens. Highlight the grass. So look. Yeah, we can do that. That's quite nice. Going down again on the temperature of the overall temperature. Don't forget we did add a bit of yellow into the split toning of the highlights. So I'm just counteracting that slightly. And for me, that's pretty much done. Between the before and after. So that's it for these edits. It's very quick. I don't spend a huge amount of time. You can see the massive difference in colours. Love this image. This is brilliant. This one's probably my favourite out of the three of these images. We'll bring back the images from earlier on. So we've got this image and this image. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my take on these images. They're very good. The first two were obviously JPEGs. They're a bit more difficult to work with. But Sue's images, the three images we got, which were RAW files, very nice images, and I enjoyed editing those. I hope you took something away from this this video, and if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments just down below. I'm always willing to help out. If you've got any questions about photography in general, or if you've got any questions about this video, please drop me an email or contact me through my Facebook group. I have a workshop group on Facebook. I'll leave a link to that. And please, if you want to upload your videos, upload them to this link, which I'm going to pop up just there. Keep an eye out for the rules that are on there. Please keep it just 3 images, and make sure they're RAW files if you can. And I will generally wait until I've got enough images to work on, rather than just do 1 image or 2 images. Like in this case, I had 5 images to work from. It makes for a better, longer video. So from me, I just want to thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, hit the little notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. So for me, thank you very much, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.